Prior to that, he worked at the Burlington County College Library, New Jersey in various roles, including Assistant Director, Reference and Instructor Librarian, and as the Distance Learning Coordinator. So, thanks. Eric Zino.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. And I'm very happy to be here with you guys to tell you about the project, one of our favorites, the Mass Digitization Collaborative. I'm actually here on behalf of the project coordinator, project manager, Laurie Gemmel. She's my colleague. She's unable to be here in person, but since I'm the local guy, literally in the Philadelphia area here, she asked if I would be able to fill in for her, and I have an unfailing willingness to talk in front of a crowd at any given time about anything, even if it's something I know nothing about. Not to say that this is something I know nothing about. Or is it? Before I get started, I do want to make a quick announcement to touch on something that Joe Lucia actually brought up in his initial comments when he mentioned the book, The Googleization of Everything. He mentioned the LYRASIS member meeting. In fact, that is coming up on November the 9th, and it is a free event. It is online, so it is entirely virtual. You do not need to pay anything or travel anywhere to join us. And I have 2 or 3 of these little flyer reminders about this. I know that's not enough to go around, but interestingly enough, there's a QR code in the bottom corner of the flyer. I'm just going to leave this and some other takeaways on the chairs in the back of the room, and you can either take this and run off with it, sticking it to everybody else, or if you have a device that can handle the QR code, snap it just as a way to bring you to the registration page. But it is from 1:30 to 4 o'clock on November the 9th, and at 2 o'clock actually is when Siva Vajanathan is going to make his keynote address. And then after his keynote address, there actually will be a reaction panel of librarians discussing and reacting, and available to you for your comments. Okay. I also have some handouts, real quick announcement. I don't have enough for everybody in the room. That always happens. I'm great. It's awesome that so many people have turned out for this great event today. But I happen to notice that some of you folks are from the same institution. So if a representative of your institution grabs one of these, I think there will be enough to go around. And maybe you already know a lot about the Mass Digitization Collaborative and don't need one. So I think we'll be okay. This handout that I'm going to leave also in the back with the other handouts has some important information on it, including on the very back, which is really where the goods are right here, is the name and contact information of Laurie Gemmel, the project manager, and it also has the web address of the presence of the Mass Digitization Collaborative on the Internet Archive for you to go in and experience and try out hands-on. It's just fun to explore. That's right here. There's also a web address for you to sign up for what are regularly ongoing free information sessions. And of course, there's the LYRASIS website information. So I'll leave these in the back for you all as well. Okay. If my hands are shaking, it's not nerves so much as the temperature in the room. I'm just going to get more and more self-conscious about that as my presentation goes on. All right, so this morning, what I will take you through is the overview of the program. Of course, we'll talk about the background briefly, tell you about the benefits that I want you to know about, the process of how it works, and to answer any questions that you may have. Hopefully that I'm able to answer, and if I'm not able to answer, we'll get you in touch with Laurie as appropriate. So the Mass Digitization Collaborative was established in 2008. It is made possible through funding from the Sloan Foundation as a project in order to assist members with their digitization needs. And I want to, at this juncture, just echo again on another comment that Joe made initially when he was talking about grassroots efforts, the collective effort and to create openness of access and preservation through these digitization projects. And the Mass Digitization Collaborative is the content of the institutions that not only who are members of the LYRASIS network, but also institutions that are not. And it is your content, it is your cultural heritage and treasures and artifacts being digitized. It's made possible through not only the Sloan Foundation funding, but your funding. And it is through not your efforts combined with ours and the Internet Archive, who's our partner on this project. What we are putting in here, the first component, as the bullet point alludes, is text. The Sloan Foundation was extremely interested in text, bound text, and so that would be, you know, your books, monographs, newspapers, serials, not loose newspapers, but rather microfilmed newspapers is what could be handled. They were very interested in volume. They were very keen to have us come up with 20 million pages worth of digitized content, and we are approaching that number. We've got projects in the pipeline. We have you know, completed projects over the last 2 years, and so there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 million pages worth of content up there, and or in the pipeline, and there's room for a little bit more. So if you have projects that you want to get involved in this, there's plenty of time and room left for your projects. I'm going to talk about what we've been doing, and also at the end talk about an expansion to our service. So we now have some expanded services as a result of some new partnerships that we have. One of the hallmarks of the project is the number of participants there are. There are 160 or so participating institutions. They are a mix of museums, societies, large and small academics, and public libraries, of course. And when we were getting started, we did mini pilot projects, which were necessary in order to figure out what we needed to do in the project. So we got pilots going so we could get feedback and shape and evolve the project, help it gain focus, and help us develop our services. So the pilot projects that you see that we got going represent a variety of, as I alluded to earlier, sizes and types of institutions. This also represents, interestingly enough, a variety of levels of expertise at that time with digitization. People who had a lot of expertise and people who had none whatsoever. And so not only does this project assist libraries that don't have their own digitization activities underway, it also assists institutions and continues to assist institutions that have plenty of digitizing activities underway. Some of these institutions have got their own equipment and their own librarians with expertise and their own infrastructure, and that's great, because what we find happens is that they choose to use the Mass Digitization Collaborative as a way to complement or supplement, perhaps, I'm not sure of the exact mathematical relationship there, it's probably supplement and complement, their own activities. And it helps them maybe complete time-sensitive projects a little faster, or get a greater volume of things readily available, or maybe they're just very interested in having their materials available in the space where at a minimum it is available, and that's on the Internet Archive, freely discoverable by everybody in the world, and we'll talk a little bit more about how that happens and show you what that's all about. So the benefits of the service, well, they would be project coordination by our project manager, Laurie Gemmel. She provides selection assistance, ease of startup and billing, as you see. So institutions can use deposit accounts with LYRASIS. They can pre-fund projects and put allocated monies aside with us as projects get started. We'll use that deposit account funds to pay for it, and that makes it a little bit easier for institutions. Of course, this project involves one-time cost. So for all of your digitized work, there's no ongoing maintenance fees or anything like that. It is just simply you're paying for some digitization, and it's per page cost. And as I say, it's a subsidized pricing thanks to a large grant from the Sloan Foundation. Digitization, so there's quality control, OCR work is done, technical metadata is handled by the Internet Archive, digital files and preservation. So the Internet Archive provides high-resolution JPEG files as well as PDFs with text, the hidden text file, so it's a searchable PDF, and many other different kinds of formats, which is good for participating libraries. Gives you options in order to retrieve and repurpose those files for your own purposes, and to be used with your own infrastructure if you have it. The process is kind of simple. You just request an estimate through contacting LARI. Selection of items goes on, and you'll see here that unique and historical materials are encouraged. Though I should say that you do have complete control over what items get digitized. Choice is yours. University publications are very user-oriented. They're widely popular with alumni, so newspapers, yearbooks, and things of that particular nature that delight your alumni and are very good for like fundraising activities and generating support. And that's also true for public libraries who have local history collections. They can generate a lot of interest and support for their libraries in that way as well. So whatever you have that you want to get up there, you're free to choose. We actually still have a listserv that helps drive selection. This was very much in use in the early stages, where people were discussing or notifying others as to what they were posting or rather digitizing. I think maybe to find out about duplication of effort, but people aren't generally that concerned with duplication, as a lot of what you have will be unique if it's a university publication, obviously. And then if there is a duplication, perhaps an institution still wants their copy to be digitized for various reasons, whether maybe it's a dedicated item, or there's various elements or qualities to the item that make it unique, even though the bulk of the content still exists with somebody else. So let's see here. Prepare the metadata for harvesting. There's a couple of ways that we like to get the metadata. A Z3950 connection is one way. Another way is via a spreadsheet. That tends to be popular with libraries, as it gives the librarians the chance to supply us with the information that they want to supply us with. Dublin Core is the metadata standard that's most typical. The metadata that we get doesn't really have to be all that complicated. For yearbooks, for example, a title and a date would be sufficient. Same kind of thing with newspapers. It doesn't have to be too much. I don't want to jump over the copyright criteria. The couple points back, the copyright is one aspect that we have to clear, and that is to make sure that it's either in the public domain or that your school or institution has got the copyrights to that material. All of the materials that get digitized, according to the parameters of the project and of the grant, are to be made public. And there's an alternative to that I'll discuss at the end. Shipping, digitization, and then the return of the materials are also part of that. So you ship it to us, and the digitization takes place at digitization facilities throughout actually the LYRASIS network membership. There are many scan sites Some are close by. One that I know of and have seen personally is at the Princeton Theological Seminary in New Jersey. After the materials have been digitized, they're returned to you, unless you were to indicate that you didn't want it back, in which case, we skip that bit. You have the, opportunity to review the items and then access to the files to download, to use and repurpose as you see fit. But at a very minimum, all of it is going to be mounted on the Internet Archive for you. Next couple of slides simply show you some machinery and some people sitting at the machinery. San Francisco is one of these scan sites. The scribe machines are the machines that they use for texts. There's a picture of a person. Every time I see that gentleman, I think Michael Jackson. I don't know, it's the Adidas and the mask, I think. But everybody takes painstaking care with the texts, with the items, and they turn each page by hand. It's not one of those puff of air, suction type things handling your text. It's people using love and care to handle your materials. Now I've got some slide captures of the Internet Archive, the materials in the Internet Archive, just in case the Internet isn't working at the exact moment that I want to show you it live. I will go in to show you it live. I want to show you some of the functionality and where some of the neat features exist. This gives you a sense of what the landing page looks like. For all member content, there's a unique landing page. This one is the one for LYRASIS et al. And in the center portion of the screen, there is a long list of all the participating institutions, so you can link through to all their collections. Though the structure of the page looks very much like what any participating institution's landing page will look like, in that there is a spotlighted item in the left-hand side. There is going to be the collection materials in the center, and in the right-hand side, you'll see most downloaded items from the last week, and if one scrolls down, one would see most downloaded items overall. And there's actually a way to get into usage statistics for the digitized items in that way. And so we'll go in when I show you live and take a quick look at that. Okay, so some of the other features that I didn't point out before is on every landing page, you can browse a collection by title, you can browse by author, there's a This Just In section also in that center portion of the center real estate. And This Just In would be projects that an institution has just recently brought online. Is there anything else? Okay. The slide captures here are kind of centered around Villanova scanned content, as Villanova is one of the participating institutions. This actually is just a slide capture of most downloaded content overall, and the Villanovan, the newspaper, is getting quite a lot of activity. So that kind of like rounds out the whole page, the landing page there. If one goes into the actual item itself, one would see a host of choices right around here. And these choices here are the different ways that you can interact with the material as a user. The read online is really popular because it's got some nice page turning animation functionality, zoom, things like that. So it looks good, and we'll take a look at that. PDF is also extremely popular because of its downloadability, so people can download things. And then there's various other file choices that you could go to. So if you had the Kindle ebook reader, for example, there is a file type that supports the Kindle. That's one of the choices there. And the All Files HTTP link, right there, That's where librarians would go to in order to retrieve the files of your digitized projects. So the master files, the metadata files, whatever you wanted to retrieve and repurpose, that's where you would go. And I'll show you that as well in a live visit. Some screen captures of what the read online experience looks like. I mentioned that that was very popular. The thing about the read online and some of the other formats is that the rendering of the images really does bring out all the qualities of the pages. So if there's like ink bleed throughs, stains, diacritic markings, all that good stuff is there, and it's such a crisp image. I'm always interested to see the bleed through of the ink and things like that. Somebody, I think it was Amy in her presentation earlier, mentioned the soul of I think the maps, and it's such a true image that I think the soul of the original item is still there, minus the smell, I suppose. So. Okay, so let me see if I can pop into online demo at this juncture. And the success of this will merely depend on my very cold fingers typing the address in correctly.
Until the heat turns on October 15th.
Oh, well, not too much longer, wait. Okay, so live now, here is the landing page for the LYRASIS collections, and I'll scroll down to the Villanova content, since we are here. Oh, this is exactly, see, this is why we have screen captures. Let me see if sometimes, I'm going to try this again in a couple of seconds to see if there's something, maybe an overload of requests being made at this exact moment. Or maybe if I choose a, I will go back into this collection if this fails me one more time. Well, I'm sorry, Villanova, I went to show some of your stuff, but this, I guess that's normal, as Eric pointed out. Live demonstrations lead to somebody you find yourself in the weeds before you know what's happening. So I've never seen this content before, so why not talk about it? That's what could go wrong. So who is this anyways? This is the University of Wyoming, okay, and let's just take a look at some of their stuff. Their landing page, there's the spotlight item with a little animated image scrolling through. This spotlight item is, I think it's randomized. There is, you can see the downloaded, oh, so I wanted to show you those usage stats. If you click on more, in these areas here, it'll bring you to the list of items, and then you can see how many times it's been downloaded that week. And if I were to go to the most downloaded items and click on more, I would be presented with a list of items, and I can see how many times those items have been clicked on overall. So I want to go into one of these item types, and let's see here, I'll just pick the YO. Looks like they are focusing on, okay, so some things I want to point out here. There's 3 areas of bibliographic or information, some metadata. The top area is metadata that we've derived from the library, the contributing institution, The center section, which is called description, right here. This one appears or doesn't appear depending on whether or not the library has provided a description of the item itself. It's not necessary. So sometimes you may not see a description of what it is. And then the last section down here is the technical metadata that's been provided by the Internet Archive. And it tells us things like where it was scanned, which one of our scanning centers did the scan work. And here we see this was done in Indiana, and it tells us a little bit about the OCR information, what type of equipment was used, and things of that particular nature, the number of images, the date that it went live, etc. Over here in the under the View the Book options, we can get into these different supported formats, like I mentioned. And I said that this HTTP link would be the place that librarians would go to, and you'll be presented with a menu of choices like this. The file that's called orig_jp2 is the original gargantuan file that is, for all intents and purposes, the master file that's provided by the Internet Archive in this case. Some of the other partners that we work with that I'll mention in a second provide that, but also a TIFF file as the master file, a high resolution TIFF. So you see the various different types of files that are available to be selected and downloaded per your requirements. We've got PDF files, black and white PDFs, deja vu files, the metadata file, and things of that particular nature. One of these is the thing that there's the EPUB file. So yeah. So this is where librarians would go to retrieve, get, and repurpose for repurposing the content that's made available here. And I'm going to select the Read Online option here. And so here we've got the item now. It's got a play and pause button right up here. And I'll just click on that, and it'll turn the pages, and it'll do that, you know, at this kind of rate until I hit pause. And we've got other things that we can do here, like back and forward, and we can scroll up and down, and we can zoom and do things of that particular nature. We can change the type of view layout that we're looking at, and there's a search field up here, and it's a searchable file. And we can also download the PDF, and if we're using a particular device that supports one of these other standards, we could access that. I'm going to cancel that request. Okay. As I mentioned, there are some new capabilities that we have. I'm going to go back. Excellent. So we had been working with the Internet Archive on the digitization of newspaper content, but we are now working with a company called Creekside Digital. And Creekside Digital is based out of Maryland, Glen Army, Maryland, in the middle of some farmland. They got the capacity to turn around the newspaper, digitization of newspaper on microfilm a lot faster than the Internet Archive was able to handle. These tells you a little bit about the specifications. They produce archival images of 300 to 400 dpi, and what they provide as far as formats that are delivered is that high-resolution TIFF, as well as the JPEG 2000, searchable PDF with hidden text file with OCR output. The only difference between that and the IA output is the TIFF file. File delivery for digitized material from our Creekside Digital partner is on USB hard drive. So, as I said before, one of the stipulations of the project is that all the material needs to be made public. With the stuff that IA handles, not a problem. They mount it on the IA, on the Internet Archive. this Creekside Digital material that comes back to the institution, to you on a USB hard drive, we'll need to take steps with you to make that public. IA can't handle at this exact moment the material that Creekside Digital is digitizing. But as long as the information or the digitized information is made public, it's okay. It is eligible for the subsidized pricing according to the terms of this grant project. Okay, we have some capacity to handle things that are outside the scope of this project. Perhaps for any number of reasons, there are items that an institution does not want to or cannot make public and still wants to use our services to digitize. We can, with partners Creekside Digital and DCS, make that happen. For those things, costs are not subsidized, but as it says here, excellent pricing has been negotiated. So what we can handle here are things that fall outside what Sloan Foundation was looking for and willing to apply the grant funds for. And this would be microfiche and manuscripts in microfilm form. So some examples might be smaller items, pamphlets, library card catalogs, government documents that are on microfiche. Microfilmed manuscripts might be works or papers from area poets or business people or luminaries from your area, from your region, politicians, people who are just important that you might be housing in your special collections or local history areas. So no problem, we can handle those materials, produce these 300 to 400 DPI archival images, and deliver these formats to you, and deliver them to you on USB hard drive for you to do with what you will. And for those loose items, large format items, things that had always been tricky for the Internet Archive with their scribe machines to handle, we've got another partnership with a company called DCS. And like Creekside, they make very high resolution TIFFs and available to you, as well as the expected JPEG 2000, PDFs with hidden text, etc. Okay, yeah, so again, that would be, the large, large unbound loose materials, photos, things of that particular nature, non-text items that, again, fall outside the parameters of what the grant project funds. So that is the end of the prepared materials. If there are any questions, please hit me with them. I may be able to answer them. Who knows? If I cannot, it says questions or contact Laurie Gemmel. Your choice. Or maybe I make the choice. If I can't handle it, I'll kick it to Laurie. So, yeah. Any questions about what we got? Thanks.
So we can just hit you with them now.
Yeah.
Questions for Eric?
Yes, Eric.
I've had experience, it's not a question so much as a reinforcement of what you said. I've had some experience working with the Internet Archive. Everything he says is exactly how it works. You basically give them, say, identification numbers that are in your library catalog, and then they use their Z3950 to look up your MARC record in your Z3950 catalog, and then they download all the bibliographic data, you ship out the books, they suck down your MARC record, they digitize the stuff exactly like you described, they stick them on this little thing, the glass V comes down, they turn the page, they press the button, they do that 1 billion times. It turns it into JPEG images, the JPEG images get smushed into PDF files, and the PDF files get OCR'd, and the whole thing gets uploaded to the Internet Archive, and then through that page that he's describing, that landing page, that's an RSS feed. And so then from a techno-leaning point of view, you can go into that RSS feed, see what's new, and extract Internet Archive identifiers. Those identifiers are always a part of a static URL, a URL that is has a predictable shape. And then you can go and harvest that content from the Internet Archive and bring it locally. And so you have two choices then. You can update your local catalog to point to the URL of the Internet Archive, or you can bring it locally, put it on your own drive, lots of copies keep stuff safe, and then on your local catalog you can put in a link to your local one, and or a link to the Internet Archive one, and you can update your catalog that way. So it works, and it is cheap, and they're extraordinarily flexible. And you mentioned the one in Indiana. I was just there like the other day delivering some books.
Great.
And lastly, Internet Archive has all those things as text files. Almost every single one of the things that we got as text files. I would love to see text mining services against all the things that they have up there. You know, as well as a link that says download. They could have another link in it that says do concordance, but they don't listen to me.
Well, thanks, sir. I'm greatly relieved, by the way, that you said that everything was exactly as I had said, because I know. So, but also thanks, because I just now learned about that RSS feed feature. I didn't know about that. That's very cool.